Hi guys, welcome to Simply Draw. I'm Elaine, and today in our loose floral video sketch we're going to be doing this purple cone flower. So you need a scrap piece of paper and a pen. I like doing my florals with a micron little marker. So whatever you want to use is great. Just get yourself organized, and while you're doing that, I just want to talk a little bit about the main characteristics of this purple cone flower. You might also know it as an Echinacea. So it's similar to the Rudbeckia that we already did. It has a circular center with a jagged edge, all these little pointy stamens. These petals are actually 2 layers, and they join the center cone almost like one underneath the other, and they attach to the cone in a narrow section, and then they flare quite a bit. Actually, this flare happens when the petal unfolds, because it starts out kind of like a sharp little blade, and as the flower grows, that blade extends and then opens up into this petal. So why does that matter? Because not all petals have fully opened up sometimes, right? So with our loose florals, we're not going to be so concerned about drawing them all exactly the same. There is a small notch, like it has a jagged tip, you guys, at the end of the petals. It doesn't come down to a point. And then the last thing that I want, well, second last, I guess, I don't know, that I want you to pay attention to is, see these gaps here between the petals? This is very typical of the cone flowers. So the petal has a wider flare, but where it attaches to the cone, it's narrow. And the petal underneath this one attaches to the cone pretty much directly underneath it. So with some of these petals that are duplicates, we only see a partial place where the petal has attached to the cone. I don't know, am I rambling already and the video just started? Here, look, here's another picture of an purple cone flower, where you have a better idea of the white space that exists between the petals where they attach to the cone. Now, this dome, oh, I said a cone, didn't I? Well, I mean, that's how it got its name, because this does actually change and change shape as the flower ages. So initially it's quite dense. It it has kind of like a flattish top like the Rudbeckia, and then this dome opens up to become more curved as the flower ages, and then the petals begin to droop around the sides. But initially, well, while the flower is kind of like at its peak, there's the center, which is like a slight dome, and all these petals are flat. They come straight out from the center. They don't droop and stuff like that. That happens later. So I think this is initially enough for us to go on with our loose florals. I'm sure you were ready long ago to start sketching, but I guess the last thing that I wanted to mention is this dark spot in the dome, which shows the density, and it also indicates the direction that the flower is pointing, because this is the center of the flower. So as it grows and ages, this dome will rise and it'll become more curved. So when you want to do cone flowers pointed in different directions, you can still have kind of like the top-down view, but depending on where you place the density of that dome, it will indicate the center of the flower and which way it's pointing. Okay? Smarty pants. All right. So I've got my Micron one that I'm going to use today. Let's get rid of this reference photo because we're smart and we know what we want to do. Like I said before, I've been using my little dollar store sketch pad to kind of keep a record of my sketches. So you grab your scrap piece of paper and your pen and let's get going. Now, the center of the flower has a jagged edge, just like the Rudbeckia. So we want to do a circle, and if that's hard to do a circle, because like of course it is, what you can do is just do a little bit and then move over, you know, and then do a little bit more, and just go around like that, and you know, auto correct and get your center down for our cone flower. Now we're going to do our lines around a couple of times just to kind of like fill it in, and we're going to decide right now which way we want our flower to be pointing. And I think because this is the first one, and actually you guys, because these have 2 layers of petals, it does take kind of a little while to draw them, and that's without me talking. So I'm just going to have the density of the cone pretty much right in the middle. Okay? Now, we know that the petals attach to the cone in like a kind of like a small section, and then they flare, and then there's like a jagged edge. And the layer of petals that we see on the top are some of them are long, but some of them are short as well. So that's what we're going to do. So just have a narrow section where it attaches, and then do like a nice flare, couple of teeth, well, you know, jagged ends. And it's actually, with these, it's kind of like easier to turn your page. I have to like make sure I don't hit the foot of the tripod. I always feel like I'm making excuses when I do my videos for you guys. So just go around and make some of them shorter, some of them a little bit longer. And also, this, doing it this way, it does help us define this circular shape for our flower. Okay. Now, remember how I was talking about the white space that is typical between the petals? we have to make sure that as we add more petals to our flower that we don't get screwed up and end up like coloring everything in and forgetting about that white space. And we also know that these petals have come out of the dome, you know, opened up like that fold. They've grown as like folded and then unfolded. Oh my God. You know what I mean? So what I want you to do next is sketch in these folds that are along the petals that show the slightly darker area where the petal has attached to that center dome. And when we add these folds like this, then as we add more petals, we're not going to get screwed up, right? Because we're going to know, oh yeah, that's the white space. This is the bottom part of the petal. Okay, so we've got a fairly good circular shape. We've got our kind of like rough edged ends to the petals. We know that some of the petals on the bottom layer underneath, they're the same length. Some stick out a little bit more, some stick out less. So what we're going to do, and we also know that typically the under layer of petals are attached to the cone fairly close to the top layer. So let's just add, we're going to go around again, and we're going to add more petals. And some are going to be covered by the top layer. And oh, you know what? How about we put in the folds of each of these new petals as we go around so we don't get screwed up. Let's say this one flares that way. And some of the petals are actually almost directly underneath the top layer. We're going for loose florals, remember? So just as long as we pay attention to putting in the flare for the petal, making it dark where it attaches to the cone, we're going to be okay. Now, when these flowers are basically at their peak, these petals around the cone pretty much fill up the entire flower. It looks nice and full. But in our sketching, sure hope I'm not doing any of this off screen. And we're, for our loose florals, we can have some flowers that are past their peak, some that are just coming out, right? So in your artwork, they can look different and interesting. Not all the same. Okay, so remember, we've only got 2 layers of petals typically. Now, actually, I just really want to fill in a couple more areas, and some of the petals can be like on their sides because they haven't fully formed or unfolded yet. Okay, see, look at the size of this gap right here. So what? Okay, now remember we wanted to define our white space between the petals. So I'm actually pretty happy with the white space that I've got here on mine. If you're not with yours, and if it looks a little confusing where the petals are coming out from the cone, you can just go around and darken the attachments just a smidge, because you don't want to have a great big muddy center to your flower. Okay, what do you think about that? Let's do another one. We've got our jagged, I don't know. Okay, I think, you know what? I think that's like not too crappy. So how about we try doing something that is kind of on its side. Oh, okay, and the stem, like since we're looking top down on the blossom, the stem of the flower is beyond our view because it's actually behind this large center. And they grow very similar to the Rudbeckia, where it's a long stem, the blossom on top, and the leaves quite a bit lower down. So how about we try something like that, you guys? Let's do one that where we can actually see a little bit of the dome, the blossoms, the petals are around the edge, and we've got our stem. Oh no, let's see how it goes. We're going to start with our center. Decide how large you want it to be. So, and we're going to have the dome, like the Rudbeckia, it's kind of, it changes height as the flower ages, but we do have our jagged edge, and the density for this coneflower would be in the center because we're going to have our flower pointed this way. So we've got our rough cone. Now, the petals, when the flower is fresh, they're pretty flat. They don't droop until much later. And if you want to draw your coneflower with droopy petals, because it's an older flower that you're drawing, the cone is going to be fully formed. All right, but this one isn't. So we know the flower is still nice and fresh. And what we're going to see is we're going to see our petals attached to the cone. And we're going to have like underneath petals, we're going to see maybe a little bit these petals here that are facing us are going to be, we're looking at them kind of like edge on, so they're going to be thin and we're not going to see too much. Let's get these petals here on this side drawn, and you can put a little bit of a curve to them. See why I like this micron pen, you guys? Because you can figure out your lines a number of times before you actually decide that, like add more pressure to the pen and then actually leave a marking on the paper. It's not so bad. Now these petals facing us, we're going to see on their sides. So they're going to appear shorter. And we may not see too much of where they actually attach to the dome. What do I want to do with this one? And then around the back, we're not going to see the tips, right? Because they're going to be like folded. We're going to be just seeing like that edge of the petal that is coming straight out from the dome and curving around the back of the flower. We're not going to see. Now, with our side view though, what we are going to be able to see, let's just get some of these attached to the dome. And we're going to see less of the white space amongst the petals because our viewpoint is actually looking to the side. We're seeing the side of the flower. Now we're going to see some of the folds though. Let's just darken up our dome here a little bit. And put in some folds. And I just want to make sure that this is a white space here. I don't want to screw it up. And this is a white space here. Just pull out some of these folds on this petal. This petal is overlapping this one. I'm not going to see that white space. These petals are close together. This petal is underneath this one. I'm really winging it, you guys, so just you do the same. There's no such thing as anything wrong. Now these petals that are going to the back, we're not going to be able to see too many of the folds, okay? Now, what's going on here? I want to, I like this here because since it's a side view, we would actually see one petal underneath the other. Could probably have thinned that one out a little bit. And we've got these petals are kind of like overlapping. I don't know. I don't want to screw this up, you guys. I think this is good like this. So, whew, hurry. Let's put in our stem. And, okay. And it's a fat one, you guys. It's kind of like fat, like the Rudbeckia. It's a pretty sturdy stem. Too bad that I did it like right through this petal, but that's okay. And this is the way these guys grow, you know, like they grow in a big bunch and you're going to see like a bunch of them together and stuff. Okay. So do we have time for one more? I don't think I have the nerves for it, but you get the idea. We've got our, you know what we've done. I don't need to repeat myself 1,000 times. Purple coneflower, Echinacea. Job well done. And I'm sure yours are better than mine. Put them on my Facebook page so I can see what your work looks like. Okay, thanks for keeping me company. See you next time.